I have a couple of supplies here, which are mainly from the house, which I've gathered. I have a pencil, scale, and some pins, and I have even safety pins here, and scissors. And these are the tags which I have it from my old clothing, and some ribbons to attach. This is a shoelace which we can attach for the mask. So today I'm going to show you two types of masks. One is for the hospitals, which you can attach the ties like this. And the other one is for personal use, which you can actually create the main mask like this, and then have the ties attached to this, like shoelaces or any flat ribbons you have at home, or this is the reused fabric which I have at home. So this is the main piece, and then I will go through the steps for the personal use, which we can just create the main piece and we can attach the shoelaces. And this is for the hospital use, which I can follow on those instructions. For the main piece, you will need a fabric, which is 9 inches by, so 9 by 16 inches. Just a one piece, which is 9 by 16 inches, one piece. Make sure when you start working on it, you keep the wrong side facing you. We will also create slots. The slot would be mainly for the filters, additional filters. So I will create slot for the additional filters. So the slot needs to go in first. So to create slot on your 9-inch side, you can fold 1/8 inch. These folds are just to make sure that there is no threads hanging out when you're creating, when you have the slot open. Okay. So make sure you have this fold. If you have an iron with you, you can actually iron it too, so that you have the fold secured in the place. Fold this 1/8 inch on both the sides. So once you are secured it, you will see similar to this. So second step is to create the folds like this.
Can we put pins to secure the 1/8
Yes.
inch? Okay.
Yes, you can put pins, or if you have iron handy, you want to get it ironed, that's also fine. You can secure it with. The next step would be the top here. I will mark a point at 3 inches after you're done with that. The reason why I'm marking that is I'm trying to create a slot slightly little down and not at the top. If you don't want to do that, you can also create it you can just fold it into half and create it on top like a pouch like this. Or you can slightly, fold it down so that there is a slot inside the mask and it's not right on the top here, okay? So for this, you just measure 3 inches from the top. Take the bottom of the fabric, which you have secured with pins, and just make sure you fold it at that point, and take the top, and I'm going to overlap here with a slight overlap. I'm going to create a pocket like this. So make sure you have these folds ready, either by securing with pins or by ironing it. It's just like a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see now, it's all facing right side.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next step, you can either stitch by hands or you can stitch it on the sewing machine. Make sure you put stitches here and here. And once you're done, you bring it to that fold which meets the 3 inches and fold the top which here, and you need to stitch these sides here. You need to stitch this side. And while stitching, make sure you double stitch here because this is the opening of the slot so that it's secure in future. And this is also double stitched. So let me show the one which I have stitched. First, I have made sure I have stitched the top and the bottom. So once you're done with the top and the bottom, you make sure you slightly overlap and then stitch the sides. You will end up seeing a pocket like this. It is a small like jewelry pack, right? So similar to that pocket. And if you see, I'm actually stitching it outside here and the stitches are visible. The reason I'm doing this is in the end, when I create folds and add the ties and all, I'm actually going to close these stitches with an additional fabric.
So quick question, your both means you have like 2 sides, right? Longitudinal sides, they both are stitched?
Yes. Now I'm using only the pocket which I had, that as an opening, but these 2 are stitched. And this stitch will go along the 16 inches fold which you made. Once you're ready with this, you see the opening of the mask is facing me. The next step, I will face the opening of the mask down. The next step I'll be doing is to create pleats like this. Okay, where if you see the opening of the mask is behind, and I'm going to work on the front side to create the pleats, and I'm keeping the opening of the mask on the top and behind. For this step, I have created 3 pleats, but depending on the size, who is going to wear, if you want it, you know, the width should be smaller, you can actually create more pleats on this. But make sure that, you know, the opening of the mask is, you are able to access that from the behind. If you don't want to use it, that's perfectly fine. If you want to use it, you can make sure it's accessible. On this piece, I will mark from the bottom 1.5 inch. From 1.5 inch, I'll mark a point. Then at 3 inches, I will mark the second point. And at 4.5 inch, I'll mark the third point.
Is the top of the pocket facing, is it like when you turned it, was it on top or at the bottom?
It's at the top.
At the top, okay.
Yeah. The reason it will be at top is even if you insert anything additional later, right? You have to make sure it stays secure. So it's better to have it on the top. Once this step is done, you can mark the additional points, which will just help you to create the width of the pleat. And that width of the pleat will be in intervals of 1/2 inch. So you can mark those points at the 1/2 inch, which I have done it on the side here. And your third pleat depth will go beyond the 4.5. So you have to mark those points. In the process, you may hit the point where you have actually have the opening of the slot. It's okay, but you need to just make sure that when you're making the folds, you secure it correctly. So, and you still have the slot open at the back.
Could you explain again the 1/2 inch point? Is it 1/2 inch from the bottom or from where? 1/2 inch between the 2 points that you marked?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So this first one, I started from 1.5, and then I progressed to 3, one main point. Then the other one is at 4.5. So the main points are at 1.5, 3, and 4.5 markings.
Right.
Right? Then
Yeah.
leave the bottom should be without any markings, because you're just going to start the pleat at that point, like this fold, right? So,
Yeah.
but you need, if you can manage without measuring, like, I just use my hands like this without measuring, it's good. But if you want that measure at least to get used to it, then you can just mark between the 1.5 and 3, you can mark the 2 points at 1/2 inches.
So
then
you
again
first
between
fold at mark 1.5. The fold that you just showed, that was at 1.5.
Yes, at 1.5. If you're making a smaller, mask for somebody like kids and all, and if you want the same pattern, you can actually even go down a little bit. But this is for the adult.
Okay, and those half points are for when you make the fold where it should land, for that, right?
Yes, yes. So I'm going to take this, and just to make sure that you have a line, you can mark the same points on the edge as well. And if you see here, I'm pinching it, and then I'm pushing it towards the second point which I have marked. This step, if you want, you can iron it or you can pin it. So my first pleat is ready. For the second pleat, I'll take the number 3 3/3 guidance and pinch it with that depth so that it meets the other point. In the process, little bit here and there, it's fine, but this will help you guide. So if you see now, the mask is getting reduced in those pleats. You see that 1 inch reduction is happening every pleat. And plus you reduced the fabric on the top when you created the slot. Then the 4.5 inch slot, you'll again pinch it. If you are working on these masks in teams, like remotely, and you can actually divide this work among yourselves. Like you can ask somebody to cut the fabric, and they can fold and iron and give you all this, and somebody can actually they can stitch it on the machine.
How many total pleats we'll have at the end?
For this size, I'm creating 3, but I have seen masks with more pleats as well.
Okay.
But for me, since I'm creating the slot, there are if you create the slot opening on the top, you can still create one more pleat. But in this case, I'm creating little down because I had experience with my mask. If I create it on top, it creates that opening on my nose.
Yes.
So I would prefer to go little down. So that is the reason I'm stopping my pleat at the point when I'm very close to that opening down. But if you have here, I have one more here which is on top. Here you can actually create, more pleats depending on, where you start and land and
this is risky.
Yeah, something like this. And the opening, you can put coffee filter, kitchen towels, or even any additional surgical mask, all that.
Fabric did you use?
I used cotton close knit fabric.
And did you
Cotton
order that
fabric.
from somewhere?
I picked this from Walmart. Joanne was out of the fabrics. I picked this from Walmart.
Okay.
And what is it? Cotton what?
What is it
It's
called?
cotton, 100% cotton.
Not flannel. This is not flannel.
Not flannel. So if you have like baby blankets at home, you can make through the flannel ones. But the flannel are a little bit thicker.
Okay.
Yeah, I have made a couple of them here with a different pattern.
Okay.
Just with the baby blanket.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But then for baby blanket, then you won't have to do it double, right? Because it's thick.
I made it double, but I did not put any additional, I'm not using it as a slot or anything inside.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, it's quite thick. Yeah, once you're ready with this, this is the main thing which you need to do. And then you can, if you're an expert, then you can just go ahead and stitch this completely so that the stitches are secure, the pins here, and come up with this one here. Okay. So the next one, here, this is the ribbon which you can just attach if you have at home. And this would be an easy step for you just to attach this ribbons here, and you can use this mask for home use. If you want to create slots where you can pass the ribbon or pass the shoelaces. For that, I'll show you how to create the slot. Once your main piece is done, you take some additional fabric, same color or a different fabric. It should be about 2.5 inches width. And the length, you can take the final product of this. The length, you can use this as a guidance. And you can cut 2 of these with 2.5 inches width, 2 of these fabrics. I'm going to use this fabric to create this slot, insert the tie, as well as it's going to close my stitches here. So 2 of these small ones. So the small fabric which I have here, I want to make sure the ends here are secured. So I will fold this and get these stitched. And when you're taking this measurement, make sure you get it little more to accommodate that stitching. You can stitch all 4 sides, or you can stitch 3 sides, because one side I'll be using it to stitch now. So you can fold those and prepare it like this. Yeah, once you're ready with these pieces, you can also use a flat ribbon if you have which can help you with that width. You can just measure how much you need to secure to pass the shoelace and how much you need to attach. If you feel you have a flat ribbon with the edges are already stitched, you can use those ribbons. So the next step would be, once you're ready with this, with the edges stitched, flip the main piece so that the opening is facing you. Small fabric onto the main piece. With like 1/8 allowance. Once you stitch that, this is how you'll end up seeing it. Yeah, the sizes are different because I was working on a smaller one. Once you stitch here, you can just fold this and press. And see now the back is like, you're made sure that the stitches are not even visible here behind. And you can turn this. And since you have already secured this end, just make sure that you fold it and place it at the position where you have enough space for your string to pass. And stitch this end. So this is the other one. Do the same thing on the other side. And you will be able to pass your shoelaces through the slot you have created. The next one is a similar, I'll use the main piece as the same main piece. I will attach the lace, the longer tie, which will be mainly used for the hospitals. So this is a tie. I'll show you how to cut this and the steps to fold it and attach this tie. For the tie, you will need same fabric, or you can take a different colored fabric. You'll have about 2-inch width, 2-inch width, and the complete length what I have is about 32. The reason for 32 is I'm going to use this continuously from end to end, and I will secure on the side. If you're going to use this side, you can again add on that additional length for it. Since I'm using the shorter side of my main piece, I'm using this. If you're making it for somebody small or bigger, you can measure, how much you need, and accordingly you can cut the length. So length is totally on the measurement of the person. The width should be 2. Once I cut this, I'm going to fold the ends, because when I stitch it, I don't want the small edges to show. I'm going to fold the ends. I can have this stitched ahead, or I can fold it, and when I'm stitching the main piece, I have to make sure that I secure these as well. So the first step is to cut this 2 inches by 32 inches here and fold the ends and keep this. So this is our first step on the tie. Second step would be to fold the tie in half lengthwise. So fold it into half, secure by pin or iron it. So the next step would be to fold into half. Then the next step would be to fold. You have the half here folded. You have to make sure, take the half portion of it and again divide that into half and fold this here. If you have ribbons and you want to use the ribbons, there's no need to do all the steps. But this is, I'm creating the ties from the cloth I have. So that is the reason I'm doing all the steps. So I folded, after folding, and take the other side of the half and again fold that. If you see here, I will end up having a strip which is going from 2 inches, half, then again half of that. So it ends up into like the smaller tie here. One thing what I've seen is towards the edge, since I have folded this and there'll be so many folds coming, this thing becomes thicker to stitch. So I have seen people actually chipping this, cutting this portion little bit so that it's easy and they don't have that much of thickness. So you can little bit, you can cut this ends. If you don't want to do it, you can leave it. But if you cut that end, then it'll be easy for you to stitch it. It will not become that thick towards the end. So this is the next step. So you have the tie with 2 inches, you're folding it into half, then again you're making one more fold in that half, and this is how you'll end up with a smaller fold. Then I'll take my main fabric, the main piece. I can Just fold it and see the and mark the center point. Mark the center point. I have a similar lace here. I will take this. I have not stitched it, but you can pin it so that it can stay, or you can iron it so that the folds can stay. So I'm marking the center of this. So this center and the main piece center should be aligned. And I'm going to open this slit here and place my main piece with that point aligned and close this. So I'm just making sure I'm inserting my main piece in that groove, in that slot. And you see that I have like this behind and here. And just to make sure I secure it, the top, the main piece, and the behind. I'm going to pin it. So when you're doing the mass production, you can even ask, folks to or kids to help out with the ties. They can cut these, and an adult can fold and iron them. Creating the tie itself takes time. So once you secure this on both the sides, you can start stitching from here till you stitch here. You can do a double stitch here because you're making sure the main fabric is secure. Then you can continue stitching. You can start here, you can continue stitching. And then again, you can, once you're done, make sure you double stitch here and you continue stitching down. If it is too complicated to start from here at the ends and you're comfortable only doing here and then extending towards the end, you can do that too. You can start stitching from here and then go to and finish the ribbon. You can again start from here and finish the ribbon. It's up to you how you want to do that. And in the process, make sure that you are also closing any stitches on the behind just to have a neater finish. So this is the one which I have stitched. I started from the end. I made sure I put double stitches at the end. And if you see, it's not thick for me because I cut small pieces at the end here, similar to the step which I showed here. And this would be the end piece for it. So this is mainly used by the hospitals. And I have seen both patterns. Either you can have the tie attached here or you can have the tie attached here. And I've just created one main piece. I've made sure I've secured my stitches. And I'm going to attach these ties for this. So there are different ways you want to attach the ties depending on what you have at home. So this one, what I have here is mainly for the hospitals. If you don't have a tie at home, like or a ribbon or similar to a lace like this step is to create those ties and then attach it.
Yeah, got it. So it's a pretty stupid question. So first one but I just want to make sure. So now the ties that we have gotten, is it to miss the length of it should be that it can be tied across the head, or is it to go behind the ears?
This is the length what I have is to tie across the head.
Across the head, okay.
Yes.
And the first sample that you created with the slit, that within the slit that you can insert it. So now we kept that aside basically. So in this slit, we can insert the tie and put it so
similar to this. So this is a shoelace which I have inserted.
Mm-hmm.
This is the shoelace, and the one which I have created here is the slit for those shoelace, or this is the end of the upscale. It's just a fabric. I took it from one of my kurtas, so I just took the ends, and this can be used as a tie.
Okay.
So I can insert this inside the slit. So what I did is I created a slit to insert it, and in the process I also made sure I close my stitches of the pleats and all that. Yeah, and this would be it's totally preference. You can actually keep both open-ended. Like I can have it both open-ended, and the person can tie it on behind the ears or on the hair, around the head. Or I have seen folks tying it like this one goes on the head, like this one goes on the neck, like you can pass it from the head, and then you secure it here, and they just tie this behind. So it's like one go. Like this. Like if you're making it for family members and they request you to make a couple of them, and you don't want to spend time on the ties, and you can ask them, they can use what they have at home, but you can just make this main thing and you can give it to them. And it's up to them, depending on the size. They can insert some ties and do it.
Why can't we put some elastic loops? Just clip them.
You can have elastic loops also. What I heard, I have other steps with elastic loops, but based on my experience and what I've heard is the elastic loops are not comfortable for long-term use. So what I had done, let me show you. So I use this. So this is the hairband which kids wear. Because elastic was not available in the store, so I used the headband, and I created a different pattern for the kids to wear. And this was done completely by hand, and kids can wear this. And if you need elastic for adults, you can still measure elastic, and I have created here a different one with measured elastic, and you can still have elastic. But from my experience, when I stepped out with elastic, I felt it was more comfortable with the tie.
Yeah. I had a question about, for the hospital workers, do we wash all of the fabric before we start making the mask? And once it's made, do we have to do anything before we donate it?
Yes.
Okay.
They will still, what you can do is when you start, you can wash the fabric, you can iron it, because ironing is one of the sanitizing steps they recommend.
Okay.
You can iron it. And in the process, I did not flip to the iron right away because I wanted to make sure what I'm showing is shown and I don't keep flipping from this place, right? So when you do all these steps, when you put the pins and all that, and if you feel that you want to secure it, you can iron it.
Okay.
So that way, you'll have a crisp look. In the process, you're sanitizing as well, right? Okay. And then when you're creating these, right, if you're doing it for the hospital workers, it's a little bit of it takes little time because you have to create all these ties. Yes. If you can get them ready-made through some means or somebody else does it for you, it's easy. So while doing this, you can iron them, and then once you're done with the final product, they are okay if you wash them and iron and bag them in Ziplocs.
Okay.
And you can put how many number of masks you have created in that Ziploc and drop them. They actually do the sanitizing once more.
Okay. Good to hear that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you are giving it to your friends, like I am sending it to my friends back in East Coast and families here, because when they ordered online, they couldn't get it in time. So when I'm sending it to my friends, I'm making sure I iron it, wash it, and bag it, and then send it by post to them.
Okay.
Got
it. Thank you.
Fabric can be new, or you can use used fabric. Like last week when I did the demo, I used a kurta of mine to I used that fabric and created that. So you can use new bed sheets, cotton close knit ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
This was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. This was
Uh,